Hey everyone, welcome back again to the channel. This is Style with Chika, and in this video I am going to be showing you how to make this beautiful tiered gathers dress that I have on. It has a smoky design at the top, so if this is something that you would love to learn how to make, keep on watching. You'll definitely be learning a lot. Like this video if you find it very helpful. Tell me what you think about this dress in the comment section, and if you'll be trying it out. You can also ask your questions or anything you find complicating in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you do not miss out on any of our amazing sewing tutorials, and let's get started. So for this dress, I'm going to be making use of 2 yards of my lining fabric that you can see here, and for my Ankara print I have 3 yards here. I also got an elastic thread aside my normal thread, which I'll be using for the smoky part of the dress. So first I'm going to fold my Ankara prints in 2, just like you can see me doing. So now that I've folded my fabric, the first thing I'll do is to come to this top part and I'll draw a straight line, which is going to serve as my starting line. After drawing the straight line, you have to look at the dress. It looks sort of like an off shoulder. So because of that, I'm going to take out 6 inches up here for the measurements of the dress. Okay, so because there is no neckline, there is no armhole, I'm taking off 6 inches. So I'm cutting this like an off shoulder. So now I've taken off 6 inches, I will just go directly and mark out the half length. That is where my gathers is going to start from. So for me, I'm making use of 16 inches. And just for allowance, because this is a smoky dress, I'm going to be adding an extra 5 inches. And aside this 5 inches, I'm going to be adding extra 2 inches for allowance that I'm going to use to hem the top part of the dress. So in total, I added about 7 inches of allowance to this piece. I'll go ahead and draw a straight line across this point. You do not have to add too much allowance, but just add enough to be on the safe side, because for a smoky dress, it usually decreases as you gather it. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my bust measurements. My bust measurement divided by 4 on this top line, and then I'm going to add extra 5 inches of allowance. This 5 inches of allowance includes the allowance for the smoking and the allowance for sewing. You can add about 4 to 5 inches. And at this part here, I'm going to mark out my waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll also add the same amount of allowance, which is 5 inches. So now I'm just going to go ahead and connect the 2 points together like this. So this is what I have for my top part. Now I'll go ahead and cut this out. So now that I've cut this out, I'm going to go ahead and cut out another piece just like this for my back. Now that I've gone ahead to cut out 2 pieces of this is what I have. So now we're going to cut the lower part. Alright guys, so now at this point, I'm going to take my gown length. My gown length is 38 inches. So I'm going to minus the half length of it, which is my shoulder to my waist measurement. I'm going to minus that. Remember that I have already cut out the upper part and I made use of 16 inches. So I'm going to minus 16 inches from 36 inches, and that gives me about 22 inches. Okay, so that leaves me with 22 inches, which means that the tiered part of this gown, the tiered gathers part of this gown, is going to be of length 22 inches. All right, so now if you look at the dress, it's tiered in 3. Okay, so I'm going to divide 22 by 3, and 22 divided by 3 gives me about 7.3. So I'm going to be making use of 7.3 for the tiered part of the gown. All right, well, because of sewing allowance and because in this tiered part of the gown, one has to overlap the other, I'm going to be approximating this to about 9 inches. Whatever you have, you can just add as much as 1.5 to 2 inches. All right, so I'm going to take my fabric now, and I'll just take the straight part of my fabric. around here. So what I'm going to do is to take that 9 inches, which I have approximated this to, and from this point here, I'm going to mark out 9 inches. So I'm going to mark 9 inches all the way down, but since it's an Ankara, it's very easy to tear. So once I make 9 inches, I can just leave a cut and then I'll drag this and it will tear. Alright, so now what you're going to do is that you're going to cut enough of this, enough to gather in 3 steps. Alright, this one now, since Ankara is by length 45, it won't even be able to gather around 1 step. Alright, so I'll be cutting at least three of these per step, 3 to 4 of this per step. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that. Just make enough that will be gathering 3 steps and enough to go around these 3 steps. So now I've gone ahead to cut out these pieces of fabric, and they are 9 inches each, 9 inches by width, and then the length is just by the length of the Ankara fabric, which is 45. So like I was saying, you can cut as much as 3 to 4 pieces of this to join together to give you one long piece, okay? But don't do too much, because if it's too full, it may not come out as you expect it to be. All right, because it's not just 1 step but 3, so if it's too full, it may look too much. All right, so now I cut out 3 pieces of this. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I cut out 9 pieces of this, which is 3 pieces for each tier. All right, I'll join these 3 together to give me one straight one. I'll join this 3 and I'll join this 3. So this is going to be for my 3 tiers. All right, so next I'm just going to cut out my lining piece where I'll be gathering this on top. So for my lining, you already know that lining comes in different lengths. So this one is by length 60. Okay, so remember the division that we did, that we said that the other part that is tiered is 22 inches. That's why in minus our half length from our full gown length, we had 22 inches. So I'm going to cut this piece of fabric as 22 inches exactly. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is that from this edge here, I'm going to measure 22 inches. I did not bother adding any sewing allowance to this lining piece because I already want it to be shorter than the other pieces, okay, so that it can hide inside. So that's why I'm cutting it at exactly 22 inches. I will just use half of an inch to hem in the edge like this. So that's my first one. I'll cut out another one. So now this one is going to serve as the one that I'm going to gather my Ankara on top. But the second one I am cutting now is the one that will serve as my lining piece. I do hope you understand. So basically, you just need to cut out 2 pieces of this one. So now I have 2 pieces of fabric that's 22 inches. The first thing I'm going to do is to hem in the edge of the fabric just like you can see me demonstrating, and I'll do that for both pieces. So for the lining piece now, just like I explained, I've gone ahead to hem in the edge, and I did that for both of these. Okay, so remember that it's a tiered gown. Because of that, I am going to have to divide this again. So we divided into 3 before, which was this into 3, that gave us 7.3. So now I'm going to take this piece again and I will divide it into 3. So everything I have here now is about 21, so which means I will divide this into 3. 21 divided by 3 gives me 7, so I'm just marking out 7 inches like this. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is mark out the 7 inches till the end of this piece, just like you can see me doing. Alright, so now I'm just gonna head to mark out 7 inches all the way to the end of this fabric. So remember that for our tiered Ankara piece, I told you guys to join them together, and this is what I have done to mine. Now you can see how long each one of this looks. So I also went ahead to fold in just one part of the ankara, just one end of the ankara. So since you have 3 of this, you're going to be gathering it along each step, which is this one as the first step, this one as the second, and this one at the third. And because of the allowance that we added, it's going to overlap on each other. So now you're going to take your ankara and you're going to start from one end right here. So just like you see me demonstrating, you'll be gathering right on top of it. You'll be picking it little by little, okay, so that it doesn't exhaust before it gets to the end. You're just going to gather this piece on top of this, and then you're going to take your second piece and you equally do the same thing. You raise this one up, you gather right on top of it, this one would cover, and then you take your third piece and then you're going to do the same thing. So now let's go ahead and do all of that to this piece. So now that I've gathered this one step on top of the other, you can see what it looks like, okay? And I just did this to the end. So I have this about 60 inches long, and my waist measurement is just 31 inches, which means that I would still have to reduce this to that amount by gathering it, okay? But before I do that, I'm going to work on the upper part. So just make sure you have this laid out like this. You can see how beautiful it looks. So to start smoking this, the first thing I'm going to do is to come to this top part. So this is my top part, okay? This is my top part. I'll just go ahead and hem in the edge so that it looks very neat. I'll hem in the edge just like you see me demonstrating like this, and I'll do that for both pieces. So now I'm gonna head to hem along the top part of this piece. So what I'm going to do now is to draw lines where I'm going to be smoking on. So this is actually very optional if you want your smoking to be smaller or if you want your smoking to be bigger. Okay, for me, I'm just going to be spacing out my smoking by just about 1 inch, but not fully 1 inch. Okay, let's just say 0.75 inches is what I'm going to be spacing out my smoking by. Okay, so let's go ahead and choose if you want yours to be bigger or if you want yours to be smaller, and go ahead and leave marks just like you can see me doing. Alright, so now I'm gonna head to make this line. So this is what you're going to do to yours. So along these lines is where you be making your smoking, okay? And whatever I do here, I'm going to do it to both sides, and I'll show you guys just how you can go about it. So start sewing the elastic smoky stitches here. First, you want to thread your machine, that's the upper threading, with your normal thread that doesn't stretch. This one you see me holding right here. So I'm threading the upper part with this one. And for the lower one that goes inside of here, you want to take your bobbin, and then you also want to take your bobbin case, okay? Some people know it as a shuttle and a reeler, but it's a bobbin and a bobbin case that I call it. So you take your elastic thread and you can't put it in here as normal, so you just have to use your hand to roll it on, just like you can see me doing. Please do not stretch it while you're rolling this onto this. And then I hear people also saying that to get better stitches, you need to like soak your thread in water, but you can try it out first and see which one works for you before you start soaking your thread in water. For me, I don't soak my thread in water and it works perfectly for me. I use a beautifully machine, not a butterfly machine, but you can try which one works for your machine. I'm going to put it into my bobbin case like this, and just like you can see, if this is too tight, please endeavor to free it up a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in here just like you can see, and I'll go ahead to bring this out like this. So the one inside is the elastic while the one on top is the normal thread. So on your lines that you have made, you're just going to begin sewing. Okay, I'll just do one here first so you can see what it looks like. All right, from the edge. But while I'm sewing, I always prefer to stretch mine. Some people say you don't need to stretch. I prefer to stretch so that when I wear it, I don't start hearing the thread cut. Okay, so I just prefer to hold it in front and hold it at the back and stretch while I sew. So I'm just going to go ahead and do all of this to the end, and you'll see what it looks like. Alright guys, so you can see what this looks like. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do this to all of these lines that I have here. So guys, now I'm gonna head to smoke both my front and my back pieces, and this is what it looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like. If you measure, you notice that your length is also shorter, but then if it's too long, you can just go ahead and trim it off a bit. So now I'm just going to join this front and this back piece together on the sides. So now I'm gonna head to join on the sides, and when I flip it over to the right side, this is what it looks like. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is just to attach ropes to the front part of the gown. You can take any side as your front at this point because they are the same thing. All we'll differentiate it now, it's the ropes. So the ropes that I have just make this in any length that you feel it's okay to go around your neck, and the wig you can just make it at least 1.5 to 2 inches. So I'm just going to be attaching the ropes somewhere around here, around the midpoint. Alright guys, so now I'm gonna head to attach my ropes. So this now makes this part facing me right here, the front of the gown, my sides, and then my back. So for my gathers, before I attach my gathers, I'm just going to join it along the back. Okay, so these two pieces that I have here, I'm just going to bring it together like this, and then I'm going to join everything that I have here along the back. But while I'm joining, I'll make effort to arrange these pieces down like this, each step along the way. I'm going to arrange it just like you can see me doing. Just make sure that each one is on top of the other so that it doesn't turn out very rough and you don't have to end up losing and sewing again. So now that I have this like this, I'm just going to sew to join these two pieces together so I'd have it as one. So now I'm just gonna head to sew on it, and I'll turn it over to the right side. So after turning it over to the right side, this is what it looks like from the back. So clearly now it's bigger than my actual waist measurement, but let's not forget that this is a Smokey and it's also very big. So what I'm going to do now is to try to stretch my Smokey out like this. So it's going to take a little bit of time. But what you want to do now is to open this Smokey piece up, just like you can see me doing, and I'll measure around it while stretching out. So I'll start from one edge and I'll measure around it. So everything I have in total is 50.5. All you have to do is just pick a starting point. From that point, you're going to measure all around it while stretching it out, okay? So when I did that, I had 50.5. So if I divide 50.5 by 2, I'll have about 25.25. So what I'm going to do is to take this piece and I'm going to measure to make sure that I have at least 25.25. If not, I will have to gather it a bit. So you can see that I have a little more than 25.25, which is not bad. So I have about 3 inches extra. So because it's folded in two, that makes 6 inches extra. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be attaching this one to this point. While I'm doing that, I will be stretching it out. So at some point also, since I know that I have a little bit extra than what I have here, while I'm sewing, I'll be gathering it a bit. So now I'm just going to start from the side. I'll pick a side. Okay, I'll pick a side. You know this, we sewed on this side, so now I'll pick a side, which is this one. That's where I'm going to start from. But then I'll take my lower piece here. Okay, I'll just make sure that this middle line is in the middle. That's my back, because that's where I joined. Okay, so I want it to go to the back, so I'll make sure it's in the middle. And then I'm going to notch the center. So this becomes my center front, this becomes my center back, and then this two becomes my side. So what I'm going to do is to notch on the side here, 1, and I'll make a notch on the other side here, 2. So now at this point, that means I have a notch here and I have a notch here to signify that these are my side pieces. So I'll take this smoked part of the gown. So this is the front, okay? I'm just going to place it like this so it can be right sides facing each other. And I'll take the side where I have my side seam. I'll pin it down to the first notch right here. And then I'll take my second side seam. And then I'll take my second notch here. And I'll pin it down. Now I know that this notch is not very visible, but just make sure to locate the side of your skirt, okay, the side of your skirt piece. So now first thing I'm going to do is to stretch this out, so you can see it stretches, right? So I'll stretch it out while I sew on top of this gathers part. So now remember that we checked and we saw that we had about 6 inches extra, which means that we have 3 inches extra in front, 3 inches extra at the back. So what we're going to do is to, at some point, we're just going to gather while we sew to attach the smoky piece to this one so that everything can come together as one. So now what I'm just going to do is to attach this top piece now, the smoky piece, to the gathers at the front, and I'll turn it the other way and then attach the gathers also. So guys, now I'm just gonna head to attach my gathers to this piece and you can see what it looks like, okay? So next thing I'm going to do is to attach my lining. So this part is optional. If you want a lining, you can do it. If you don't want a lining, you can just let it be. So now that I've turned this inside out like this, this is my lining piece which I worked on earlier. So now I'm just going to go ahead and sew on the sides together to join my lining piece so it can be one like this. So I'll go ahead and sew on the sides. Now that I've gone ahead to join on it, what I'm just going to do is to take this part that I joined to the back like this. So this is the back, okay? So I'm going to place it on this side. Alright, so just like I attached this other part, that same way I'm going to attach it, but this way. Okay, so I'm going to be attaching it all around the waistline like this. I'll be stretching it out, and if there's any part that needs to be gathered, I'll just go ahead and gather it until this piece totally wraps this one up, so that when I open it up, it will cover the rough seam. So let's go ahead and do that. So guys, after I was done attaching my lining piece to this side, you can see what it looks like. So it has already covered up this rough edge that I have here. So I'm going to flip this over to the front also. And this is basically all I have for this dress. I do hope you found this tutorial very helpful. If you did, do not forget to leave a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our amazing tutorials, and tell me what you think about this in the comment section. And I'll be seeing you in my next video. Bye guys.